Welcome to Cellmates.
Oh, welcome to Cellmates.
I'm Kate Phillips.
I'm Dick Ward.
And we are a podcast that takes two animated movies and we compare them, contrast them, slap them inside a Venn diagram and see what comes out. Often these two animated movies are Disney.
But not always.
Often they are musicals.
But not always.
Often they are good.
But not always.
So, you ready to start?
I thought we did.
Like on your mark.
Isn't that the beginning?
Get set.
Yeah.
Mount onto the podcast.
Is that a thing people say? do people say on your mark, get set, mount onto the podcast?
They do now.
They do now. That's right.
Dick, what are you drinking?
Well, I noticed that our mugs are themed. They're both Santa Claus mugs. So I assume that this ties into our movies in some way.
Well, Dick, let me tell you that those reindeers don't let just anyone ride them. Oh.
So what I'm drinking is it's like a green tea and some peaty whiskey. It's like a Port Charlotte peaty whiskey.
Yeah, it's essentially a toddy.
Yeah, but we found...
For a couple of reasons.
You found a drink.
I did. I found a drink called Back in the Saddle that mixed whiskey with a tea, I think a Chinese tea. They told me to look in an Asian market, and I didn't have time for that. But it's a tea that has like leathery and tobacco-y notes and has a very smoky flavor.
So kind of like a saddle, like a leathery.
A saddle.
Yeah.
So this is just a saddle toddy. Toddy saddle.
Yep.
Toddle.
Why else are we drinking a toddle?
Well, we're drinking it because a saddle could be something that you use to ride a beast.
Yes.
Maybe it's tamed. Maybe it's never been tamed.
Maybe it will only be tamed by the chosen rider.
Ooh.
And maybe they're also pretty good if you're getting over a cold.
Yeah, which I am. So,
didn't you play Toddle?
Are you trying to say that Toddle sounds like the name of one of Tevye's daughters in Fiddler on the Roof? No, there's Hoddle.
That's so close.
It is close, but it's not really spelled the same. There's Zeitel, which does start with a T. There's Chava. There's Shvinza. And then there's Bielka, the 8-year-old daughter, who I have played twice. Both at age 14, at age 20. You're welcome. Both times, I was told by audience members that some people there thought I was brought in by the local elementary school.
Good job.
It's good acting is what it is.
That's right. I have never been more excited and more instantaneously disappointed when I found out that Fiddler on the Roof, which I have not seen, has a character named Laser Wolf, who is in fact not a mechanical wolf that shoots lasers. He's just a guy.
Yeah, nothing to do with lasers or wolves.
Such a letdown.
But back to our toddle.
Yes. Our hot toddle.
You might use a saddle to ride a horse, like
Ooh.
Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron.
Now, Kate, let me tell you, I've ridden a horse. I don't much care for it, but I've still got this saddle. I want to ride something else.
Well, Dick, may I teach you how to train your dragon? I don't know. I can't. I am not.
Oh, okay.
I'm not in the movie, but we're talking about the movie.
Okay, I was pretty excited about learning how to train my dragon.
Well, have you seen the movie?
Yes. It's not about that. Okay, so first off, yes, we're doing Spirit, Guardian of the Stallion
of the Cimarron. I'm going to have to look at the words every single time.
And How to Train Your Dragon, two movies that are really interesting and cool and good generally, and have terrible names.
Yeah, the names don't have a lot to do with the contents, but we'll talk about that as we move on. We have to thank our friend Hannah. Well, she's
a real friend.
She's an internet friend of the podcast.
Yes.
Fake friend,
friend of
and
the
listener.
Podcast.
Hannah reached out to us on Twitter with these two movies, and they're related to the trope only the chosen may ride. So, untamable, quote unquote, entities that choose for themselves who they will let kind of into their
Who's the
world
special?
And ride that. Yes, who is the special, if you will. So thank you, Hannah, for this pairing.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for engaging with us on social media.
And telling about us to all your friends and family and loved ones. And by the way, if you'd like to submit an episode suggestion, you can do so on Facebook.
Cellmates Podcast.
Or you could do it on Twitter.
Cellmates Podcast.
You could do it on email.
Cellmatespodcast@gmail.com.
And you can visit our website to link to our Twitter.
Yeah,
but our website is
cellmatespodcast.com.
That's what we call good branding.
It means that domain was not taken by anyone yet, and so we went with it as the name of our podcast.
That's correct.
Ooh, that hissing sound that you may or may not hear means it's the advent of winter, and we can't control the radiators in our apartment. Please ignore, just
Surprise,
like we
live in New York.
Surprise.
We can. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so these movies, Spirit, the horse, is the untamable beast in that one. Toothless, the dragon. The Night Fury is the counterpart in How to Train Your Dragon. And we had not seen, I guess we'll get to it, but we were looking, both of these titles had come up in our previous conversations about what to pair together, but Hannah put the pieces together for us, so we're excited to get to these two movies.
So let's start by talking about the first movie we watched was a Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron.
It's so,
I keep wanting to say like Spirit Guardian of Ga'Hoole or something.
And you would hope that the movie does more to explain the title, and it doesn't.
It does not.
It's just really bad for people like with lisps, like me, like Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron. It's a rough one.
Not as bad as like sushi. Well, for me, I can't say that word twice in a row.
Sushi.
Well, okay, you're better than me.
So that's a different speech impediment, I guess.
Fancy.
So yeah, Dick, you said we saw this earlier of the two. What is your earliest encounter with Spirit?
Yeah, like not at all until like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I had heard of it. I had seen of it. I probably saw a trailer for it. I had not seen this movie. I didn't really hear about it. Outside of like probably a trailer back when I was going to see a movie like every week. That's it. I knew it was a movie and there was a horse in it.
Uh-huh.
And he was potentially the guardian of the Cimarron.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about my knowledge too. It was on Netflix for a very long time, and I feel like it just came up in passing a lot, and I remember thinking it was a long, ridiculous name then. But it stuck out because it was a long and ridiculous name.
Did we have to rent this? Or was this on Netflix for us?
It's on Hulu now.
It's on Hulu.
No, we did have to rent this.
Yeah.
It's sequels.
Yeah, because How to Train Your Dragon's sequels are on
Hulu. Or Netflix.
No, the original's on Hulu. Anyway,
there's a lot of this. Both of these IPs are on streaming services, but not the original movies themselves.
Yeah, you have to do a rent them up.
Yep.
We like Vudu for that. Boop.
We do. Shout out to Vudu if you can get anything free for us.
Yep.
Cool. So that's what we knew about Spirit.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. This would be the time that you set a cookie timer.
I guess I have to do this now. So we do 2-minute plot summaries of the films that we talk about on the show. And we set what we lovingly refer to as a cookie timer. It's just the Apple timer ringer circuit, but we have a cookie song that goes with it because
your family would sing Cookies Are Done. Is that the deal?
It was just one time, so it's an inside joke forever.
Yeah.
That's how my family works.
One thing happened once.
Yep.
We will reference it for the rest of our lives.
Rest of time. All right. All right.
Yep.
My racehorse is ready.
It's not a racehorse. Are you at the starting gate?
I'm at the starting gate.
Are you ready to not be captured by any people's?
Champ at the bit. I don't know. We'll see if I can. All right.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
I go. So there's this horse, right? And he's
Yes.
like alpha horse of his tribe. And they have a good time being horses. But, oh no, he finds another horse. But these horses are not like having a good time. They're like captured or something. And then he stumbles upon this like colony of humans. And the humans take him in as captive. What? And he basically like his tribe runs away. He gets to save them, but he has to be part of this colony. And so this like colonial dude is like, no, I'm gonna break this horse. He will be one of my horses. But this horse has other ideas and like tries to rebel and doesn't do the things. But then eventually he gets worn down, but not before he meets an indigenous person named, he names himself Little Creek. He is a Lakota, a member of the Lakota tribe, and he's also been captured by these settlers, and they seem to have maybe some similar spirits inside them, but they disconnect. But anyway, the horse gets tamed, but oh no, the horse gets free because he rebels, and then the Little Creek rides him out, and then he's with the Lakota, but the Lakota keep horses too. That's not what this horse is used to. But he meets a nice girl horse, and they develop a relationship, but he won't let Little Creek ride him, and Little Creek knows that, and he's like, cool, I'm not going to ride you. But the settlers come attack the camp, and then Little Creek is like, no, I need to ride you. And he's like, nope. And he escapes again, the horse. And then the horse gets captured again. This happens like 5 times.
The horse gets captured a lot.
Yeah, he works for a train at some point and like makes horses go free. But anyway, in a dire moment, he's about to run away from the Lakota forever with his horse bride, and the Lakota say that's okay. But then they get attacked one more time, and he does have to let Little Creek ride him. Oh, he only chooses him, but then he gets to live free with his wife horse.
Yes, that's true. Little Creek's like trying to ride him this whole time.
Yeah.
You were very cocky before this episode started when we were deciding what movies we would summarize, and you were like, I can summarize Spirit in like 20 seconds.
Yeah, I can. Horse gets captured again and again and again. Little Creek rides him at the end. Otherwise, nothing really happens.
That's pretty fair.
But he gets to roam free at the end.
Yeah.
And then Little Creek gives him the name of Spirit. He doesn't have a name this whole movie. He's just horse we know.
I find it interesting that when talking about this whole movie, you mentioned Little Creek, you mentioned Spirit, you mentioned, what's her name, Rain is girl
I
horse?
guess her name is Rain.
But
we never
you
know
forgot
that.
to mention the main character of this movie.
The Cimarron?
Brian Adams. Who has
Brian Adams.
It's maybe like 10 songs in the movie. It's a strangely large number of songs.
So it's
but like 6 of them are in the first 20 minutes.
So it's one of those movies. It's a Phil Collins style where like the singer who has
Like
composed
your
the songs
Tarzan or
for the
your Brother
movie
Bears.
is singing the songs. No one they're non-diegetic. No one in the movie is singing the songs, but they all like some of the Bryan Adams song are like slightly westerny.
Some of them
Or like
really work.
Wanted Dead or Alive type
Yeah.
style, and those work. And then some of them are just Bryan Adams,
And they do not work.
but yeah, they're very front loaded. There's like a 10-minute period where it's just like song ends, song, song ends, song. It was like, is this Fantasia?
After like the first couple songs, we're like, oh, this is going to be like a little bit happens, and then there's a music video, and then a little bit happens, and there's
Yeah.
But after like the 5th or 6th song, it's just a movie for a while until Bryan Adams pops back in, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Oh, Bryan Adams is
There's
here.
like an entire album on this movie.
It was weird. I'm not sure that it ever added value in a way that nothing else could have. I don't know. It could have just been instrumental. I think that would have been fine.
I think his song during the so the you said the like people that capture him initially.
Yeah.
You described them as like settlers or something, but they're Civil War era, Revolutionary War era.
It's what's referred to in history as the Indian Wars.
Ah.
So it's like the settlers are moving west
Yeah.
and trying to push indigenous populations off their land because that's what we do in this country.
Not trying to. They do.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Spoiler alert for Pocahontas. No, but yeah, it's interesting because that I like in general that sequence is strong.
Yeah.
Because you've got characters and stuff, but you've also like the Bryan Adams song when the general is trying to ride Spirit.
Yeah.
And Spirit is like, no, or everyone's trying to ride Spirit. Spirit's like,
Colonel.
No. Sorry, yeah. But like all these people are trying to ride him, and Spirit's like, no, you ain't gonna ride me. That song worked.
It is. It's
really
like, you ain't
well.
gonna ride me or something like that, or
it's
you
like,
ain't gonna get me.
You ain't gonna put your feet in my saddle. Something like that.
The lyrics are not as specific as Phil Collins and Brother Bear, but they're like just specific enough that
At
you're like,
times.
this song would sound weird out of context.
Yeah, at times there are moments. At times there are moments. At times there are lyrics that are a little too spot on. But yeah, it's not Brother Bear and it's not Cars.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah.
This town had its lights on, now it doesn't. Click, lights go off.
Sometimes cars aren't so happy, but sometimes cars are happy. I don't know why I'm doing it in a Toby Keith voice, but that's what's happening.
Yeah. But in general, this movie is more, I think, atmospheric than about the specific plot.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just one big character arc. But he ends up the way he started, which is roaming free. Maybe in the Cimarron. The word Cimarron,
know what the Cimarron
is never, ever mentioned in the entire movie. Yeah, it's... So the closest... So, yeah, it's not like one region. It's not like a desert. It is several deserts. It is several cities in the West. Like, several cities are just named this. Like, I don't know. Like, another name of a city. Like, Arrowhead or something.
Yeah.
But, like...
Springfield.
The only real definition or like link that I could find to the movie was that it's a Spanish word that kind of ties to being like wild or unruly. So if it's Spirit, Stallion of the Wild, that makes sense. Oh. But the word Cimarron is never once brought up.
You said I have one more question for you, and then we'll get on to our next.
I am the
Spirit
summary. Stallion of the Cimarron expert here.
Yes. No, you said that this movie is more atmospheric, and it's not necessarily about a story from A to B. It's kind of a journey. Did this remind you anything of like the Miyazaki films that we've watched, which have like a similar like it's not necessarily about the A to B story?
Yeah, I guess. I didn't put that together as I was watching it, but I guess that's true. It was more grounded in, reality than a typical Miyazaki. But yeah, there was kind of a lot of loops in it where it's like, all right, we're getting this point, but we're seeing a slightly different angle on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was as carefully constructed as a Miyazaki, but it was. Didn't we watched this like on a Saturday morning, didn't we, or afternoon? Yeah. And it felt very appropriate for just like a daytime movie.
Yeah. You know how like Saturday morning and like I'm a big fan of the podcast We Hate Movies, and they'll like talk about a movie they've watched and they'll be like, yeah, this isn't a good movie, but this is a good hangover movie. Spirit is like slow moving. It's like a lot of music. It's not a lot of dialogue. You don't have to pay attention too much. It is a great like Saturday morning, like wake up and be lazy. It's a great hangover movie. Like, absolutely.
And some beautiful animation. The horses are animated beautifully. The backgrounds are lovely.
There's one bit where they're like going through, I don't know, like Bryce Canyon or something, and it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's like a chase scene through there, and it's lovely.
So what's the other movie we watched?
Well, the other movie is How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh.
Not your horse, your dragon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool. Kate, what's your first experience with this movie?
I think I dismissed this when it came out as like, this movie isn't for me. I don't really like fantasy dragon stuff in general. Yeah. So this isn't for me, and it's DreamWorks, so it's probably pretty dumb. But the more it exists in life, the more people tell me like, oh, no, this is like good DreamWorks. Like, there's DreamWorks, And then there's good DreamWorks.
These are both DreamWorks,
These
right?
are both DreamWorks,
Which
yeah.
I didn't really realize until today.
Yeah, Spirit is mostly 2D, but it's got a lot of CGI in terms of like the special effects and backgrounds. And How to Train Your Dragon is traditional CGI.
Traditional CGI.
Well, yeah.
No,
I'm coining
true.
the term.
That is true. All right, cool.
But yeah, but I get the hype. It's different than Shrek for sure.
That's true. Even though there's a lot of Scottish accents.
Yeah,
It's a very different movie.
Yeah.
Oh.
Dick, what's your history with How to Train Your Dragon?
Same. I had heard a lot of people tell me that this is a good movie and I should see it and it's great. And I was like, no, thank you. Because again, DreamWorks doesn't have as strong a reputation with Dick Ward's. And the title of this is dumb.
Yeah. To be fair, it comes from a book. They didn't make it up.
Well, they could have made it up. A lot of things change their titles when it goes from books to be a better title. But yeah, this isn't really about how to train a dragon.
No, but I think
it's kind of like how to be friends with a dragon.
I think the conceit, this is a series of books.
Yeah.
And each one is how to something. And they're written by our main character, who's like a teenage boy.
Yeah.
So.
And they're YA novels,
Yeah.
which are now titled the same as mystery novels, where it's like the cat who saw in the dark, the cat who ate a cookie, the cat who did this. So these are like how to train your dragon, how to tame a dragon's heart, how to eat a dragon's egg, how to whatever.
Oh boy.
Yeah, maybe not that.
It gets violent.
Yeah, well, he gets hungry. So yeah, I honestly just overlooked it because the title made it seem like it's like a kids movie.
Fair.
Which I understand.
Yeah.
We make a podcast where we mainly watch kids movies.
Well,
like what could be described as kids movies.
They appeal to children, but
Okay, but we did watch the Care Bears.
We did watch the Care Bears in Wonderland.
And it was
and My Little Pony. Yeah.
One of our favorite surprises of this whole podcast.
All right.
Yeah.
Dick, are you ready?
Oh my God, so ready. I even have a list of the characters' names.
See, I should have done notes.
Of me.
I should have done notes for mine.
Well, you have 3 characters' names.
Well, yeah, but anyway.
I just don't want to say our hero because I think I do that a lot.
That's fair.
And our hero, by the way, is named Hiccup Horrendous Haddock, also known as Triple H.
Ah. Dick, you ready to teach us how to summarize your dragon?
Yes.
And go.
Okay, so Hiccup is this kind of nerdy kid, and he lives in a village of giant, strong Viking men, and he is supposed to fight dragons. That's what basically everyone in the village does. They either fight dragons or make stuff to help people fight dragons. And he wants to fight a dragon, but he's scrawny, and he comes up with these inventions to help him fight the dragons. And eventually, he does. He shoots down a night terror.
Night Fury.
Night Fury, which is the... That's a different thing. He shoots down a Night Fury, which is the spookiest, scariest dragon that no one has ever seen because it's so fast and quick. And then he goes and finds it. And he kind of becomes its friend after he doesn't kill it and then it doesn't kill him. Hey. They're like, hey, we have something in common. We didn't get murdered by each other. He fashions, the dragon is injured, so he fashions a new tail for it, or a new tail part, and then he puts a saddle on it and starts to ride it, or tries to ride it. The dragon's like, no, and he's like, yes, please. And eventually he does, and he and the dragon become friends. Well, Hiccup's dad, Stoic, is on this whole quest to find the dragon's nest and kill them, because dragons, in his mind, are bad guys and not just kind of friendly animals who occasionally have to eat. And it turns out this dragon's nest, Hiccup goes to the dragon's nest on the back of Toothless, who's the name of his dragon, and he sees that there's a giant mega dragon at the middle of the nest. So Oh my God, I did not do a good job of summarizing this.
Keep going.
So Hiccup has to convince the village that dragons are not evil, and he has to show off that he can beat dragons, but like not by killing them. And he has to convince his dad not to lock up Toothless. And they all kind of, like, his dad takes Toothless to the dragon's nest because Hiccup accidentally says where the dragon's nest is. And then they all fight the dragon, the giant mega dragon, who's a bad guy. And Hiccup's friends are also on dragons. There's a lot that happens in this movie.
And then dragons become friends / pets of the community instead of enemies.
He's my friend and slave.
Yeah.
I own him.
We should probably watch the movies closer to us recording this so we actually remember the plots to summarize.
I absolutely remembered the plot.
Oh, good. I didn't, so that was why I failed.
No, I absolutely remembered the plot. It was just a lot of plot.
There's a lot of threads, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily feel that way in the movie.
No, in the movie, it just feels like the pacing of this movie is really like spot on.
It's nice. Yeah. There's not a scene where you get done with it and you feel like, oh, okay, well, I guess that scene's in there. Like every scene is teaching you something or like exposing you to more information that you need. And
it's a really 98-minute movie and it uses that time well.
And that's so this movie is directed by the Lilo and Stitch guys, Chris Sanders and Dean Dubois. And they start in animation as storyboard artists for Disney. So I feel like when you're talking about this movie is very tightly plotted and paced, that directly speaks to their experience.
And we just watched part of behind the scenes feature where we found out that they were brought on, like, so not only is this based on a book, but they were brought on after a lot of this movie had been like pre-produced.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the characters were already like created. So they're like not going to change the character look. They're not going to change certain things, but they've still got to change the story to make it work.
It was basically the story wasn't working. I think the director was fired or left the project or something, or it went through a couple and then ended up with them. Yeah. So it's interesting to watch them, and we'll link this on the social medias.
Yeah.
But
highly recommend it.
Really, and we still need to finish it because we just had to record tonight, but otherwise we would have finished it. It's fascinating for them to talk about this from big picture stuff to like minute scenes and how they, bounce ideas back and forth off each other. And it's really like the best idea in the room wins. There doesn't seem to be a lot of ego, at least in the videos that we're seeing. And really cool documentation of that creative process.
Yeah. And we make fun of him a lot, but Jeffrey Katzenberg has some shining moments.
You know what?
Like he's a ridiculous man.
As funny as Water is Blue, guys, and we should cut part of your world because a kid dropped their popcorn. Like, as dumb as he started, but he knows movies. There's a reason that I don't think it's just random correlation that Jeffrey Katzenberg is associated with like the 4 highest acclaimed movies of the Renaissance and Prince of Egypt and this like. And Shrek, and, Hotel Transylvania or something. But, like, no, that's not DreamWorks, is it? No.
I don't know.
Anyway, he's got some flops, too. But the guy knows storytelling.
He's got some flips and flops.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Our characters who choose their riders.
Yeah.
We got Spirit.
Yeah.
Or No Name in the first one. We got Toothless, who also doesn't have a name until his chosen rider kind of makes one up on the spot.
And it's not really clear that's his name for a little bit, right? Like, because also he has teeth.
Well, yeah, but when he meets him, he like retracts his teeth into his gums.
Retractable teeth.
And that's the joke, I guess.
Oh.
But it reminded me of the moment in Up where Russell's like, "We have to save Kevin. That's the name of the creature I just gave him right now." Like.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we have to save Toothless.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Toothless is the name of my dragon.
The dragon's name too? Okay, cool. Let's go for it. All right.
It's really fascinating because we saw Spirit first, and it starts with this narration. Matt Damon apparently is the horse. We're like, okay, Matt Damon as a horse is fine. But the horse doesn't actually talk in this movie.
Yeah.
Matt Damon provides narration, but the horse's mouth doesn't move in speech. It makes horse sounds.
Yeah,
like a
and
horse.
he has narration throughout the beginning, and then not for a little while.
Yeah, there's one maybe spot in the middle, and then at the end,
it cuts in and out, and it's. Look, Matt Damon was in a hotel room with a recorder. He gave him one take, and then he was out. It's not great.
Matt Damon is not a voice actor, as we learned on Titan AE.
Yeah, and
he doesn't do a bad job. He just sounds like Matt Damon.
I keep waiting for the joke. Because he sounds like he's going to tell a joke. He's all right, so I'm a horse, and these are my friends, and we're happy. I don't know. I feel like I'm waiting for something, and it just never comes.
It feels to me added in. It kind of reminds me of how Land Before Time was going to be without any dialogue, and then they're like, oh, no one knows what's going on.
We need to give these characters
So I think maybe... I don't know. Maybe it was always meant to be there. But
yeah, that might be the case. The narration is getting you we talk about the royal we. When my old director used to talk about Shakespeare, he'd say no one's going to understand the first 5 minutes. So it's okay if you lose the audience there because their ears are getting used to the way you speak, and basically that's the point of the first couple of minutes is you are teaching them how to listen to you. And I wonder if that narration in Spirit is kind of we are giving you some narration, you are seeing what the horse does, we're giving you some narration, you're seeing what the horse does, now you understand how the horse works, we're going to take away the narration.
Right. You can hear the voice inside of his head. It doesn't have to be external for you to hear it. Yeah, I like that.
And there's very little dialogue in Spirit.
There is. And it's nice. I mean, that's one of the things that contributes to this great, Saturday morning value is that, it's all visual. And I think it's done well. These animators are, they know what they're doing. These horses look great. I think it's very clear what the horse is doing. I liked the horse sounds because it sounded like horse sounds, but you could tell there was a frustrated whinny and there was a joyful neigh, and I'm sure the visual added to it, but I feel the sounds were different.
Raise a joyful neigh. And
fun fact, the horse vocals and the hoof beats were all sounds of real horses in this movie. Wow. I also just like the phrase hoof beats. It is used in the Wikipedia article along with voices. Not just the horse sounds were real. The hoof beats and horse vocals were real.
I will say I got a lot of unintentional laughter out of this movie.
That is, yeah.
Spirit, here's the thing. The thing about the communication of this horse is he does not always act like a horse. Sometimes he acts like a human. And sometimes he's like, hey, over here, with his head.
Oh,
he'll,
yeah,
move his head and be
nods.
like, over here. Or he'll, his eyes will be human eyes.
Eyebrow movements or, yeah.
Yeah, which just makes him kind of seem like BoJack Horseman. So I'm waiting for Will Arnett to, say something self-deprecating or mean. So that's and in general, that's one of my problems with this movie is the way the horses communicate with each other is it's not through human language, which is great.
Yeah.
But it is through human-ish movement.
Well,
I think a little too human-ish for me.
It's human coded, right?
Yeah.
You have to, there are some things that you kind of have to show. I'm trying to think of the words for it. It kind of reminds me of like suspended disbelief in the theater,
Yeah.
where like you know that this character is on strings to fly, so like you're going with it, and it's kind of a weird twist on that, where like, okay, you know they can't do everything like real horses. Like,
Right.
they have to do some kind of human-esque nods every once in a while to make sure you're on board. And personally, I wasn't bothered by it.
Yeah.
I just liked the boldness of, like, it. I think it's something that we talked about with Brother Bear, because in Brave, when Mom turns into a bear, she only makes bear sounds. And we kind of wished that Brother Bear was like that.
Yeah.
But Disney wasn't bold enough to do that. They
Yeah.
didn't trust their storytelling
like,
enough.
Land
Or they just
Before
made that
Time-
choice. It's okay.
Land Before Time initially started that way.
Right.
And Bambi initially started that way.
Right.
And they both moved to
Right.
to voice. So I really do applaud Spirit for going for it and doing it.
But you had an interesting observation in one scene in particular between Spirit and Rain, where you rolled your eyes because they were doing things too human. Do you remember what you said?
I don't.
You said, I wonder if a lot of these scenes were created to like be able to add in voices later if they realized that this was a big mistake.
Yeah.
The time given to each face could have been enough time for a line of dialogue.
Yeah, there was like some weird editing. There was some weird movements, and I was like, this feels unfinished almost. Yeah.
Which I get. And honestly, it's a smart move if that's true. Like, if they were building in that, like, you do want to have a fallback in case your horse movie is not working with horse sounds and hoofbeats.
Yeah. One other thing I do want to mention as a source of unintentional humor is there's a very dramatic scene. Do you know what I'm about to talk about?
I hope so, because it's in my head now.
There's a
It's
very
image.
dramatic scene where the horses are like, for some reason, there's like a river chase, which is already like a little weird because a horse.
And it's like the
swimming
fifth
doesn't
chase of the film too.
Yeah, and it's like, you didn't need to make this a river. This is just weird. But then the Spirit tries to save Rain, and they end up like going off a waterfall. And apparently,
But they like detach from the waterfall. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like you probably would physics wise.
yeah, and when a horse falls, they're still horse shaped, and it just looks hilarious.
They don't like clump down. I don't know. Like with a human, I guess you know how humans fall.
Yeah.
You're not used to seeing a horse fall, so it's just like
But since
a
it's
sideways horse kind of
since
just
its
dropping.
legs are straight and
Yeah.
its head is straight, it just kind of looks like it's a horse toy. It looks like they threw a horse dummy down the
It
waterfall.
was. We both had like an involuntary burst of laughter at that
and
moment.
it's a dramatic scene.
Yeah.
That's like Rain's death, right? Like she dies right after, or we think she dies
she
right
gets
after that.
severely maimed by it. Yeah,
We couldn't stop laughing.
yeah,
I felt bad, but it's funny looking.
yeah. But I do think the lack of voices kept it from being too goofy like that. Like
Yeah.
that would have been just definitely laughable with the voices, or there might have been more moments like
Oh my
that.
God, if you've got the horse tumbling down the waterfall, Rain!
Oh boy.
But so now,
So yeah,
yeah, our other voiceless protagonist is Toothless.
it's
in
Toothless
How to
the
Train Your
dragon. Yeah. Also, also not portrayed by a vocal actor, but has dragon-like sounds and very, very expressive facial movements to communicate what he is thinking and doing.
Yeah, and there is not a dragon in real life to base him off of. And rather than like base him off a lizard or something like that, it seems like they based him off like a cat and dog.
Yeah.
Like he has elements of cat, he has elements of dog.
Yeah, I've seen the word panther in my research.
Interesting. And he has, yeah, I can see that. I can see that for sure. And he definitely has elements of Stitch.
Yeah.
Like strong elements of another almost speechless character.
Yeah.
Stitch.
That is foreign and then becomes friend.
Yeah, who Chris Sanders also.
Well, and it's funny because when we were watching this documentary, you see Chris Sanders' sketches of Toothless, and you're just like, oh, so that's Stitch.
And that's Lilo. Like
That's Lilo. Hiccup is Lilo.
And this, to be clear, this is not a criticism.
No.
I think I love.
Draw characters the same way.
Yeah, he has a drawing style. He draws stuff that way. But yeah, I really enjoyed, for the most part, Toothless being kind of a...
Yeah, so what made it different for you? Because you laughed a lot at the horses being horses. Toothless is the same principle. So what was the difference for you?
The difference for me is that Toothless, his when he emotes, he does it in a familiar animalistic way. Like you said, a panther.
Yeah.
Like I definitely see that. He had like some house cat moments or like dog moments, where it's like, oh, I recognize that he's purring or he wants to be petted or whatever. But when the horses in Spirit were emoting, there were times where they were like doing human-ish things instead of animal-like things. So it just didn't. It just felt off to me.
Yeah, I know
like,
what you're talking about.
It felt like people playing horses rather than horses.
I'm also wondering if that's perhaps like a horse's face and face shape doesn't lend itself to those like kind of para-human characteristics that we associate. I mean, we keep we keep cats and dogs as pets in human society. Horses are a little bit different.
My family has a lot of horses.
Well,
my uncle has like 10 of them.
But they're not like... They're not, I mean, they're not small enough. That's the main reason. But they're not expressive.
Horses, like, they move their lips if you put peanut butter in them. But they don't, like... You don't see, like, pictures of, like, grumpy horse or smiley horse online. They're not, like, memed.
Right.
They're not super expressive. So that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Like, that's a unique
challenge. And I'm trying
to
think of other, like, you got Max in Tangled. I'm just trying to think of other animated horses for reference. Because I also think you have a lot more cats and dogs to reference in the history of animation. Yeah. So there's more of a precedent and kind of model of how it's been done.
When I think animated horse, I'm like, oh, the horses in Snow White that were just horses.
Right.
Or the horse in, that was just a horse.
Yeah. There's not really... Tangled might be the only one that gives a horse that much of, like, human character that you want to follow. Yeah. And then it's, like, overdone in comic. Max is not a protagonist. He's not a leading horse in that movie. Not a noble steed. I guess Donkey, but Donkey's way more comical.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes from his voice.
Yeah, that's true. And interestingly, was this true? Was this a connection?
A true thing, yes.
That the animators for Spirit did a lot of horse research, obviously, and a lot of it was then used for Donkey a couple of years, 1 or 2 years later in Shrek. Yeah. So that's interesting. Yeah. That they got it more.
Wouldn't have the Stairmaster.
No, you're right. The voice is a lot of that.
Yeah. Because he's not, like, he moves his head back and forth and he smiles. He has a big old smile.
It's a rounder face. I guess it's like more round characteristics that Toothless has. Yeah. It is interesting because I felt the same way. Like, I'm more able to empathize with Toothless and know exactly what he's thinking and doing. The horse they did really well, but I like Toothless better. It's probably just better writing too. But there's in particular a moment where he's trying to share, like, one of his first gestures of friendship to Hiccup the boy is like Hiccup brings him a fish, like a raw fish to eat. He eats it and then he spits out half of it, like, here, you have the other half. And he has to, like, put raw fish in his mouth. He goes, and then Toothless just looks at him and goes, but like with an eyes and face where, like, you can hear him go, now swallow. Yeah. And it was a great moment because it wasn't just him swallowing. It was, you could tell it was a command. But yeah, they did a really good job making the details come to life. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Spirit, like, of the characters in Spirit, like, I don't care that much about Spirit. Like, seems like a pretty good horse, but he's, I don't know, a horse. Yeah. I like Little Creek. That's his name, right?
Yeah, Little Creek is the Lakota.
I like him. He's a Lakota guy. He tries to be friends with Spirit. He's like, oh, man, I'm going to ride you one day. And Spirit's like, no, I'm going to buck you off every time. And eventually, like, Little Creek's like, you know what? I can't ride you. Go free. And it's like, it's nice. It's weird, but it's nice.
I liked that acknowledgement, right? Because Spirit had some weird, like, in the beginning when he encounters these, like, I guess enslaved horses is one way to put it.
Let's get into this.
Because, Spirit is a horse. He runs free. He doesn't know any other way. He's never met a human before, we're made to believe. So he stumbles into this human camp with horses that are tied up and
saddled.
So he's looking at them, like, he stumbles upon them and, like, what is this? What are you up to? And the horses kind of, like, look away from him, or, like, kind of, like, they look very resigned to their fate.
And they kind of behave more animalistic than he does.
Yes, absolutely.
At least in that moment, or they behave tamed.
They're also, I noticed, and this could have just been a differentiating, like, wild horse versus this new family of horse that's not related to his family. They're also very dark brown. Spirit and his clan are tan.
Yeah.
Tan and white. These horses are very dark brown to black. And so what happens in these first scenes is at least I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, this is going to be 12 years a slave with horses. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't know how dark this is going to get, but
because we don't know anything. We just know there's a lot of Bryan Adams at this point.
So that differentiates it. But this idea that this person, this character who has never known anything but complete freedom and complete autonomy is now discovering this whole other society where horses are treated as horses, right? Like, for lack of a better term, but they're domesticated, they're property, right?
Yeah, they're ridden.
So I'm like, oh, this is interesting. But then they go back and forth with this.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird,
in a way that I'm like, are horses Africans are in this situation? Are they supposed to be? But like,
is it a metaphor or isn't it?
Right.
Because it seems like it might be, but it might not.
And then when
be.
Little Creek is introduced, I'm like, oh, okay, not Africans. We're talking about indigenous populations here, and like minding their own business, ruling their own culture, and then someone comes in and says, no, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Here, let's break you until you do it our way.
Yeah.
Cool. But then...
Because that's the thing, is they're trying to break Spirit into
to be
being
like
a domesticated horse, and they're trying to break
horse.
Little Creek into like giving away where his people are.
Right. And giving away all of his land and resources. And so that's neat that they can make that connection. Little Creek is like more respectful of Spirit than any other human character we meet.
He talks to him. I think he gives him an apple or something at some point. He's very respectful of Spirit.
Yeah, and they escape the camp together because there's a whole fricassee, and they end up running away together. I don't know. Is that how you pronounce that word?
Fricassee?
Yeah.
That's like food, right?
Well, but it's like a big hullabaloo.
A fracas?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no one becomes food. Anyway, they run away together. And then you're like, okay, cool. They run away together, except for he doesn't ride him. He just kind of like hangs onto his neck.
Yeah.
And then
he like side rides him.
And then they run into friends of Little Creek's who are riding horses. Mm-hmm. And then
they're like using a blanket instead of a saddle.
Right. Blanket instead of a saddle, and like ropes instead of reins, and like bridle. Just
like the colonizers, whoever did, the indigenous people also threw lassos around Spirit's neck.
So
and
Spirit
put him
thinks
in a cage.
He's like broken free and is now going to go find his family again. And then no, he's captured again. So it mixes its metaphors and parallels in a way that, like, I don't really know what to make of it.
Yeah.
For sure, the Lakota are more respectful of their horses. They get to kind of roam around. Like, they have a pen, but they get to roam around a little bit. They don't have, like, saddles and stuff like that. And it's more, we're buddies, and you're going to help us do the work, and we're going to help you by treating you really well. But he's still technically enslaved.
And he's still a wild horse that they're trying to domesticate less. They want to domesticate him less than the other people do. And then they still want to domesticate him.
You have Rain, who's like made peace with her domestication. It's unclear whether she has been captured or born into captivity.
Yeah, and she's friends with Little Creek. They like hang out and play games.
She's very cool with her situation.
Yeah. And by the way, this horse looks like Glenn Close.
Yeah. If it had a voice, it would be Glenn Close.
I don't know why. I was just like, oh, this looks like young Glenn Close. I don't think Glenn Close looks like a horse. I think this horse looks like Glenn Close.
Yeah, I think we understand what you mean.
All right, great.
But yeah, so it's like, so, I mean, the end of the movie is he and Rain end up free, like wild horses. But there are still horses around the country that are captive. So I'm not super sure what the message is. Like, or is it okay for horses to be tamed as long as they're treated respectfully? Is it not at all? Like, if you're seeing this horse as sentient and he was wild and now he's anything less than that, we don't like that. But horses that are already captive, it's okay for them to be captive because they don't know any different. That seems wrong.
Yeah, it
seems like all horses should be free if Spirit is free.
Yeah, it's a strange like pastiche of things that happen, and it's not really like because he at the end he sets those railroad horses free.
Yeah,
but he's not really concerned about setting those horses free. He wants to go home to his family.
Yeah, he's not like a revolutionary so much as like, well, setting all these horses free will cause mass chaos and I can leave too. Like, he does seem to care a little bit about horses that are captive.
Yeah, but that's not his agenda.
No, it's not his agenda.
No.
Yeah, so it's just, I'm glad he gets free, but it kind of makes you question the whole, should we use animals for anything? Like, right? Like, I mean, we're not.
Like, is that what the movie's trying to say?
Yeah.
Because it's not clear. But also, this movie has, and I do overall like this movie.
Yeah.
But it does need to be like discussed. What is this trying to tell us? The other thing about this movie is it has a Pocahontas ending where he and Spirit and Rain go back to the herd and live happily ever after. And wild horses roam free in America forever.
Yeah, it's
we know what happens next.
You correct me if I'm wrong. What you mean by Pocahontas ending is not that the romantic leads end up together, because that does not happen in Pocahontas.
Right?
But you mean that like history is solved, like and Native Americans and the white people work together in harmony forever and ever at the end of Pocahontas.
Exactly.
Same with the horses and the humans here.
We know what's going to happen.
We have no reason to believe what's different.
Well, horses become completely domesticated in America. There are not
like not really wild horses left.
Wild horses.
There are,
around.
but not.
Yeah,
it's not common.
It's and maybe Spirit is maybe one of Spirit's little grandbabies is still out there.
Well, if we watch that Netflix show or the Hulu show, they're everywhere. There's a Spirit sequel.
There's a sequel,
and then there's a CGI TV series with his son or grandson or something.
Again, for a movie that I was like, oh yeah, I remember hearing about that. It's got some spin-offs. It's got some legs.
Yeah.
It's got some horsey legs.
Yeah. So with these like saddled beings in How to Train Your Dragon, it's a little bit different, right? Because the dragon, once it's captured, can't fly because its tail is busted.
Yeah, so he shoots down the dragon.
Hiccup,
yeah.
Miss Hiccups.
Hiccup.
As a 4-year-old called me earlier this month, Miss Hiccups.
Were you hiccuping?
No, it's just Phillips is hard to say.
Miss Hiccup.
Miss Hiccups. I hope he never changes it.
Hiccup shoots down the dragon, and then he goes and finds the injured dragon to kill it. Doesn't kill it, and the injured dragon like runs off.
And then, but like bumps into like can't fly away.
He can't fully fly. He lands in like a
canyon pit kind of thing.
Yeah. And he's stuck there. Mm-hmm. So Hiccup befriends him by like bringing him fish and things like that. But it's like it doesn't seem horribly different from Little Creek and Spirit, where he's like I guess the difference is Well, no, because like Hiccup tried to kill him.
Hiccup tried to kill him, and that's not, I feel like, up to the point where he understands that dragons are friends, not foes. I feel like it's not his fault. Friends, not food.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not his fault. Once he meets, like, actually comes face to face with the dragon and chooses not to kill him, then he's more responsible for his actions. So in this movie, like, dragons roam free, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're perceived as enemies to the Vikings.
Because they raid the village.
Right.
Like, pretty regularly.
Right.
To steal their food and
Right.
flock and stuff.
But how they get around it with Toothless is that he cannot fly without the apparatus that Hiccup has created to help him. Because Hiccup has to operate it to keep the tail wing open.
Yeah,
the fake tail wing open.
To keep it open and closed and move it.
And to, like, operate it as a rudder.
It's like
the tail actually does.
Yeah, it's like...
prosthetic.
Yeah, it's like a prosthetic that's functional but operated by someone else.
Right.
So instead of being like just a tail that the dragon has to deal with, it's a functional tail, but the dragon doesn't have any say over what it does.
But, and so if the dragon, if Toothless tries to, like, knock Hiccups off, Hiccups, or if Hiccup falls off, then, like, all of a sudden he can't fly. So it's a symbiotic, like, they have to both be there to operate this dragon vehicle. So it makes sense from, like, all right, we need each other for this.
Yeah.
But then by the end, when everyone discovers, oh, the dragons aren't really evil, it was just this one giant, terrifying dragon in a volcano who's evil. Oh my gosh. When we first saw that dragon head.
Oh, we'll get into it.
So once they don't have to, be beholden to the ring in Mordor, that's kind of what it felt like, right? That, like, the closer you... Anyway, the village befriends the dragons and maybe keeps them as pets.
And
like,
domesticates them.
They're all riding them.
I mean, he describes them at the end as pets.
Yeah, so it's still problematic. Like, they weren't pets of evil people before, and now they're pets of good people. They were flying free. But I guess they kind of belonged to the volcano monster.
Yeah, and it is a symbiotic relationship because now the dragons, like, they can ride the dragons and do stuff, but also the dragons, like, can eat the food that the village is making and stuff. So
I guess that's less in the text.
But it is definitely, like, especially, like, if we had seen How to Train Your Dragon first, this never would have popped into my mind. Right. But we saw Spirit first, which is all about, like, animal enslavement.
Right.
And then, like, we're watching How to Train Your Dragon. It's like, wait, why are these... Like, I get why Hiccup's riding this dragon. They're best friends, but why are these other guys riding dragons?
This
they have not
doesn't
earned
seem
this.
right. Like, can't you just, like, smile at them from afar?
But, like, together they do defeat the Megalord dragon.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's talk about as
long as I don't have to look at it.
You have a fear of...
oversized animals.
Yeah. To the point that, like, I saw a rock
oh my
while we
gosh.
were on vacation.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like...
it's a big rock. It's like, what, like 20 feet high. It's like basically a dome shape.
It's a big rock in the water. We're on a boat.
In Costa Rica,
and there's a big rock in the water. And that rock, like, it looked to me kind of like a King Kong head and shoulders sticking out of the water. Yeah. And I said to Kate, oh, man. And then you go, what? I'm like, oh, I shouldn't say it. And you were like, oh, okay. And I'm like, no, you know what? I'll tell you. That looks like King Kong to me. And
I, like, literally hit the deck of the boat. Like, I couldn't handle
I don't
the
know
idea.
why.
I think it's also, like, the partial body, it, like, messes me up when I, like, can't. Because that would have been like
see the entire. It would have been
that would have been like an 80-foot King Kong coming out of the Costa Rican waters.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't handle it.
So
animals that are much bigger than they're supposed to be, even a little bigger, like the dogs that are the size of horses. Yeah, go back to one of our Miyazaki episodes where I explain it in full detail. It's a problem.
The other thing that makes it a problem is, I think. I have a very similar emotional reaction to these things that trigger you, and I think they're awesome.
That's the trigger for you.
I see it and I'm like, oh, this is the coolest. So this dragon, these dragons that we're dealing with are already dragon sized.
Yeah.
And then we find out that they are all slaves to a mega dragon.
And the scene that it happens in, they all swarm, like, Toothless gets, like, swept up with the other dragons, and it's unclear whether, like, Toothless is kind of being brain-led here,
They're kind
or,
of
like,
being, like, sucked in.
or a little bit, like, with the current.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's, like, a mental or physical thing. But anyway, swarm of dragons start circling this volcano, and then they're all down there, and so they're, like, lining the walls. That's already creepy. And then this head that's, like, I don't know, like 100 dragons. Like the head is the size of 100 dragons. Comes up and takes out, like, everyone drops in their fish and whatever food into this dragon head, and you can only see the head, and it's in this giant. I almost passed out.
It's so awesome.
Oh my gosh!
It I'm like a not current, but I was like a World of Warcraft player from way back. So like, there's an expansion called the Cataclysm where a giant dragon like destroys the world, and it's super cool. And like one of the like last fights in this section of the game, you're like on the dragon and fighting him, and he's just this massive thing. And I was like, oh, it's so cool. And that's it. I don't know. I find it so exciting, and you just
that's fine. Your
face is just like,
yeah. I mean, I appreciate adding more things to my list that I should never ever see or encounter.
Yeah. But it was cool in the movie.
It was cool. I'll give you that. Like, it had an effect on me.
Now, Kate,
it's just too big.
Let me ask you this:
Yeah.
What if you saw a dragon like that, like basically in real life?
What do you mean, basically in real life?
Like almost entirely in real life. Like maybe if it was like a puppet.
Oh, well, if they were regular sized, I would say yes. We found, okay, listeners, we need your help.
Yeah.
Bringing this back.
Please.
So, Dick, you want to, so we discovered a stage show of How to Train Your Dragon.
An arena show.
An arena show.
To be clear.
Not just a stage show.
Yeah.
Like, you'd think that maybe there's something like at a theme park or something. No.
Or like How to Train Your Dragon on Ice or something.
Yeah, which there was that too.
Oh.
But in doing the research,
I didn't know that.
On like the franchise, there's that too. But this is, Dick, do you want to explain Walking with Dinosaurs?
Yeah, so Walking with Dinosaurs was a tour. I think it was like a British show or an Australian show where there's like a guy in the center of an arena, and he brings out dinosaurs and talks about them.
It's the real life version of what Screw Eyes was doing in We're Back.
Yeah.
But instead of like scary, they just kind of put on here's how dinosaurs live.
It's like really good dinosaur animatronics and puppets. And like in some cases, it's like a man wearing a dinosaur suit like you might see in like Universal Studios or something, where it's like, it's really good.
But most of the dinosaurs are like dinosaur size, like museum fossil sized dinosaurs. Brontosaurus that's
dinosaurs.
Like multiple dozens of feet high.
They look amazing, and even though this was a educational, very dry, very boring thing, it was amazing because there's dinosaurs in front of you. So what
DreamWorks does is they license out How to Train Your Dragon, and they contract the Walking with Dinosaurs people to make a How to Train Your Dragon arena show with like full-sized animatronics.
Yeah.
We saw bootleg, quote unquote, because I don't think there's any official video.
We watched
but
someone videotape it.
It looks like the most amazing spectacle I've ever seen.
Like,
these dragons are flying.
Yep.
They're like interacting with the humans, like the eyes are blinking.
Yeah, the puppetry and animatronic ability on display here is staggering. Like, Toothless is emotive. Like, it...
Yeah. Even from like, and this fan is not sitting close with the camera. Like,
but yeah, even from far away, you see the emotion on his face. And then at the end, when the mega dragon comes
So yeah,
out.
it's like an hour-long show, and
Yeah, so
we'll
we're-
link it too. So we were just skimming through, but we're like, okay, how do they do the really big
we
dragon?
gotta know, because they've got a giant LED screen. We're like, oh, maybe it'll just be
And
on
they're
the
doing
screen.
projections and like pyrotechnics. That's cool.
Yeah.
So what they do is they do have the head, which is mostly what you see in the movie. So the head sticks out of this like back panel, and you're like, all right, well, they just did the head. That's fine. Like it's big. But then when the dragon starts flying, the giant dragon,
Yeah.
it becomes part of the projection screen, his body. So like the projection screen is moving in a way like you're
And
experiencing
the
like I guess
projection-
backward flight.
The projection screen has wings.
The projection and
And
wings
it
and the
has,
full
like,
body behind.
background and a full body, and his head is real.
Yeah.
and, like-
so the head is like careening with where the projection
Yeah.
screen is flying.
And it's
Oh my gosh.
amazing.
It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like,
Yeah.
how did this not make billions of dollars?
I mean, maybe it did.
well,
we
they
don't know.
did. They started it. I think Walking with Dinosaurs must be Australian or New Zealand because this is where the tour started.
Got it.
And then it came to North America for a tour, but it was cut short because China gave them more money for it. So they took it to China, and it never came back. Like how?
It's so cool looking.
I would pay lots of money to see this live.
Yeah.
Like for real.
Absolutely.
So cool. Why can't this is what I want from every movie that I love. Just like a real big spectacle in an arena version of it in addition to the movie that I love. Give me lion puppets. Singing
Okay.
Hakuna Matata on a big log.
On it. Working on it now.
Anyway.
Got it.
Yeah, so circling back
Yeah.
to these titles, Dick. Okay, so Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. Maybe one of those words is used in the movie before like
Two.
the last set of narration.
Actually, all the words but one are used.
Of
in the
and
movie.
the are used throughout the script.
Stallion
Stallion
they
is-
use a lot.
Stallion they use a lot.
Humans just say, "Oh, the stallion, the stallion, the stallion." They don't say like a name or something. The like American
Yeah, there's a
I don't know
breed.
I don't know how to call these people, but the U.S. government the army mans.
The army men's.
They call him the Stallion.
Yeah.
And only at the end does Little Creek call him Spirit.
Yeah.
So
that's not a great name. And then How to Train Your Dragon, I feel like I would accept it as a name if we saw Hiccup writing a manual called How to Train Your Dragon.
if it was more about training the dragon.
Yeah, but even if it's not, even
Yeah.
if we see him just writing that book, like that's what happens in the epilogue or something. Great, like that's fine, but
Yeah.
we don't really see that, and it's not about training a dragon. It's
No.
about getting past
about a
stereotypes and prejudices.
And let's I want to jump back to this because we didn't really talk
We
about
didn't.
this. This is about a father-son relationship.
It
This
is.
movie, like it's about the dragon thing, and the dragon is like the star of the show.
Yeah,
But this is about a son not living up to his father's expectations, and the father being upset about that, and then eventually they learn to accept each other,
yeah,
and it's great.
yeah. I think this would have been interesting with the movie Brave as well, because there's a literal line where the kid says to the father, like, "You're not listening to me," and I'm like, "Oh, flashes of Merida."
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's not only is he not living up to the father's expectations, but the father has this whole locked-in worldview that you as the viewer, along with Hiccup, discover is completely false. Like, they don't know it. They're not making up lies on purpose, but like, oh, it's based on completely faulty information.
yeah.
So, yeah, it is a cool father-son story. Yeah, I will say perhaps a reason we haven't talked about it yet is because it could have been fleshed out more.
I mean,
And
sure.
it kind of gets lost in the
It gets
toothless
lost a little
Hiccup
bit in the
friendship story.
But it's really nice. There are some really wonderful moments between Hiccup's dad, Stoic,
Yeah.
and Hiccup. But there's a great conversation between
Yeah.
Hiccup's dad and the guy who's like training Hiccup to be a blacksmith, where they're like talking about accepting your son the way he is, and maybe he's just not gonna be that guy, and like it's or like give him what he wants, and look, he's got to try. Like it's just it's so nice, and you can like that to me. I'm just like feeling the Chris Sanders in this movie.
Yeah.
Like his influences are like strong explorations of like relationships that are kind of on the rocks, like Lilo and Stitch, same thing.
Yep, with his sisters.
And making terrible monsters cute.
Yeah.
Like
and empathetic, yeah.
And empathetic.
Building in empathy. Yeah.
Dude knows what he's doing.
So my question for you, Dick, where I was going with this is what would you name these movies? Since these names don't really work for these movies in our estimation, what do you name them instead? And this could be a collaboration.
That's a good question. For Spirit, we've been calling it Spirit.
It might just be Spirit, right?
Spirit's a great name.
It is.
Yeah. Like The Little Mermaid is called The Little Mermaid.
Yep.
Right? Just call him his name.
And I think if you take away that colon and say like, oh, Spirit is the stallion in the title, I don't think you only have to refer to the stallion as Spirit. Like Spirit then becomes...
It could be anything.
More like Frozen, where it's just word that applies to a lot of different things in the plot.
Untamed Spirit, Wild Spirit, or we could steal from Disney and call it Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken.
Add a diving board and...
Yes. My very favorite horse diving movie, where a girl proves that she can be as good as a boy at horse diving.
I guess the Lakota are better than that.
The girl power era had some weird messaging.
Weird relationships, Dan.
One of my sisters, like legitimately, was one of my sister's favorite movies when she was a kid. She could not stop watching Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken.
Did she want to pursue a career in horse diving?
Who doesn't?
Uh-huh. How does that even work? Like, I just feel like I would drown. I feel like the horse would like somehow get like drown me at the end of it.
Just don't drown.
But like you'd be like kicked in the head maybe, right? Like
could be.
Horses don't necessarily drown easily, but they can't swim real good.
They fall horse-shaped.
They fall. We know that.
What would you
Horse-shaped falling is the name of the movie now.
Oh, alternatively, I would name this Bryan Adams Presents Spirit.
Brian. That's the winner. That's it. Bryan Adams Presents Spirit.
Yeah. What about How to Train Your Dragon?
Yeah, that's a more interesting one, right? Because I feel like I also want. I haven't come up with it, but I also kind of like want a one word, like multi application.
This summer, Hiccup. Huh? No.
Or like wings or flight or something like.
Just something besides How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Again, I understand the conceit in the book. Maybe. If I had read the book, I'd understand it more.
But the sequels are not named How to
Train Your Dragon 2.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah, I will cut maybe flight or like taking off or something. This idea of like being able to pursue your own stereotype-less journey or path or arc.
Just because we don't have the better name doesn't mean there's not a better name out there.
Yeah, that's true. So, suggestions to rename either of these movies.
Please. Or our podcast.
Oh.
Wait, no, please don't do that.
We already own all those domains. Yeah. That's way too tricky.
Sorry, but you can rename these two movies.
We didn't even do a spooky Halloween name because I don't even know how that works. We're glued to this title for the rest of life.
That's right.
Anyway. So, Dick, are we ready?
Oh, wait, ready for what?
For the final...
The final?
Final cut?
Wait, just the final cut, right?
The final cut.
Oh my God, final cut?
Sorry, I might have messed it up because I was thinking about like, are you ready to like clip your wings? But like clip your wings is the opposite of what we're doing.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
Hey, Kate, if we were going to do a scene shout out, which is a segment where we shout out one particular scene that we liked from each of these movies, what movie would you start with?
Well, let's start with Spirit, because I don't have a scene for that yet, but I want to get it out of the way.
What's your scene from Spirit?
My scene
that you thought like particularly worked, or you thought was really effective, or you thought had the best Bryan Adams song in the movie?
I mean, it's hard to choose the best Bryan Adams scene in the movie.
Yeah, there's so many of them.
Because there are too many to count.
Yeah. We have trouble counting to like 8, so...
Yeah, I guess it would... For me, one of the most interesting scenes, and again, it didn't quite pan out in as interesting a way as I would have liked it to, but that scene where where Spirit discovers the camp for the first time, because, you know, as you were the first like literally 15 minutes of the movie is just watching these wild horses run around and be a horse family.
Yeah.
And it's like nice and calming, but you don't really know what the movie's about until he stumbles upon this camp. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you're realizing that all this kind of lazy world building was made to lull you into like, oh, this is the world and this is the only world.
And by lazy world building.
Yeah, I don't mean sloppy. I mean like dreamy.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of, it's not plotted like How to Train Your Dragon, for instance.
It's not like bop, 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 bop. It's kind of relaxing. You're like, oh, there's a eagle friend.
Yeah. So then when something is different, when there's like stuff made by humans and horses who are locked down to something, not only does it grab your attention, but it forces you to enter Spirit's perspective and be like, oh, no, he's never seen this before. And also, like, as a human watching, I'm like, oh, this is the only way I know horses, kind of. Like, I don't run into wild horses. You see, like, I don't know, like, it's not a thing.
We mainly see police horses.
Yeah.
That's the horses we see.
And even like driving in the country, you see horses that are within a fence.
Like in a stable.
Like, they're not like deer. They're not just running. So there were a lot of perceptions that seemed challenged that I wasn't ready to be challenged, which I thought was cool. I also liked where it was potentially going with, like, you know, maybe he's going to be in charge of rescuing all these horses. But like you said, you know, horses are not wild in generally today, so that's not really how history works. But I liked the potential, and I liked the jarringness of it.
Yeah. Nice.
What about you, Dick?
So I'm gonna go back to that train scene. All the horses, Spirit is like trucked away on a train to he's not sure where, which also felt like, are we doing it? Like Spirit is like dying, and he's like seeing. Go ahead. No,
he's like hallucinating.
He's hallucinating.
Because he's been broken too many times.
Outside of the train.
He's on this train car with like 3 of the horses that belong to the Lakota. And I remember it just makes me laugh because I remember what you said when he wakes up from this hallucination and the horses are like, hey, Spirit, snap out of it. The first thing you say is, oh, he's going to eat these horses.
Yeah, it was a weird sequence, and also like we've gone from slavery to like disenfranchised people getting on a train to they're not sure where. I was like, are we doing this now?
Yeah.
Is this a Holocaust thing?
Yeah.
What are we doing with this horse? What's going on? But after that, he and all these other horses are chained up to pull like a giganto train. Because
they're building the railroad.
They're building the railroad.
Part of history where we're building railroads.
I guess you need to pull a train. I don't know the logic, but I know they're pulling this train, and it's like massive, and it's a really beautifully shot scene.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting scene, and then he like fakes a heart attack or something. Like,
oh yeah,
he like plays dead.
Yeah.
And they've like fetched some mules to carry the horse, and I love that so much because like we got to move this train, get some horses. We got to move this horse. Get some mules. We got to move this mule. Get a dog.
Like a Russian doll.
Yeah, like it. I don't know,
animals.
but it's a really beautifully shot scene, and Spirit running from the train because
he sparks a rebellion.
He sparks a rebellion. He causes chaos, and like at this point, I would have loved to see him be the like leader of the free horses.
Right.
That never happens.
No.
But he does like run from this.
What? Yeah, like the train ends
this
up.
train that is careening down a mountain.
Yeah,
and, like,
it gets derailed and then just rolls down a.
It's just really, it's really fun. It's exciting.
Yeah,
it's a little bit silly, but in like a good action movie way.
And I feel like this is a period of time where DreamWorks was doing this better, where like they finally figured out how to like. Convincingly put 2D and 3D together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know the train is CGI. I know this horse is 2D, but I'm not concerned. Like, it doesn't look janky in a way that I'm used to seeing those mediums mixed around this time period.
Yeah. Kate, what about How to Train All Them Dragons?
I'm going to let you go first because I have two in mind and you might take one of them.
Oh, crud.
Sorry, you just went.
That's okay. I'll go again. I'm ready for this. Aside from the first appearance of the giant mega dragon, which is super cool, I really like the early scenes of learning to be friends.
Yeah.
There's one in particular that reminds me of Brother Bear and reminds me of Good Dinosaur.
Yes.
And that's where the Hiccup. He's just kind of like doodling. He's off on his own, and he's drawing Toothless in the sand.
Yeah, he's drawing, because there's this book about dragons, like a resource reference book that the Vikings have made, and it's missing this Night Fury because no one ever has seen it. So he is, over the course of several days, sketching the Night Fury, sketching Toothless to add to the book, right? That's
true.
Okay. No, you said he's like doodling, but he is sketching. No, sorry,
that's
never
incorrect. Mind. No, this is he's drawing in the sand with a stick. He's drawing in the dirt.
My bad. Continue.
But thank you. That is also a true thing. So he's drawing in the dirt with a stick, and he's just kind of drawing Toothless's face. Mm-hmm. And I think at this point, like, Toothless has kind of rejected him, and he's just kind of like resigned, but he's like, I'm going to stay here anyway. And then Toothless comes over and looks, and he's like, oh, that's me. So you like see Toothless disappear off screen, and then he comes back on screen with like a tree, basically, like a giant branch that he drags around to draw. And like, it's this big elaborate thing. And then you don't see what he's drawing. You just see that he is drawing. And I'm like, oh, the camera's going to pull back, and it's going to be like, it's going to be the kid, or it's going to be his homeland, or it's going to be something. And we're going to learn something about this dragon. The camera pulls back, and it's just squiggles. It's just a bunch of squiggles. And it made me so happy. It's so fun.
It's so Chris Sanders, too.
And that whole scene is just really well done. But the reveal of squiggles.
But he's like trying. He's trying to do a parallel play activity.
You're doing this thing. I'm doing this thing too.
Yeah, I can do it too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad, because that was one of the two scenes I was going to talk about.
Good.
And I have a
What's your
feeling.
other scene?
And I apologize for adding information that was totally superfluous. I thought you were starting at a different starting point. So the other one, and it's small. So after the final battle, when they defeat the giant scary monster, and then they, as they're like landing to safety, Toothless and Hiccup, the dragon's like tail does one last like flourish, the big dragon, and it starts to come at them, like as the dragon is dying, and they're like, oh no. So like you have this little moment of victory, and then it's like, oh shroom, boom. The dragon falls, Hiccup falls, and you think, oh no, one of them is it's not. It's okay. He's okay. The dragon protected the boy. But you wake up with Hiccup a couple months later or a couple days later. I don't know, because he's like in a coma because he's badly hurt. And he, he gets Toothless like licks him in the face or something, kind of like a puppy. He gets up, he stumbles around a little bit, and then realizes something is off.
Oh.
Yeah. And he stands up, or he sits with his legs off the bed, and he pulls the blanket off to reveal that he is now missing a leg.
Yeah.
He had 2 legs, and now he has one prosthetic leg.
Yeah, from like the knee down is like
from the knee
right?
down. And that sound that Dick just made into the microphone was like my entire physical reaction to it in that moment, because it's like, oh, this had real consequences. That's bold for a kids movie to do. And also, like, now he matches his friend who, like, he created this prosthetic tail wing for, so like, and they've
also he matches like all of the other Vikings, because a lot of the other Vikings are like missing limbs from fighting dragons. Yeah,
so it's like this dual.
Which he got injured fighting a dragon.
Yeah.
So he like kind of fits in with the rest of the Vikings.
Yeah. And just like, showing that they've like created an apparatus so that his prosthetic clicks into Toothless when he rides him now. It's like a stirrup. And it's like, I mean, and also I think it's powerful knowing that there are sequels that like now the protagonist of your sequel has a prosthetic limb, and that's just part of it.
And that's fine. And
it's normalized in this universe.
That's who he is.
Very cool for audiences. It's very cool for the storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I teared up.
Yeah. It was really
Didn't see it coming.
Nice job. I forgot about that. And
I wanted to mention it.
As he wakes up, I'm like, ooh, this part. Nice. Yeah. Kate, if you were to pick an MVP from both of these movies, just like pick one MVP to rule them all, who's your MVP of these movies?
I got Toothless. Toothless. Like, I know this is not our crossover segment nor movie, but like, I want to see him and Pascal have some adventures
from
Tangled. Yeah. He's like a darker, both literally and figuratively, version of Pascal.
Pascal can be any color he wants to be.
Well, that's true. That's fair. But just such expressive eyes and face, and his reactions, you read them super well, but they're like 30% off from what you would expect someone to animate or voice or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's just this cool, slightly off-kilter humor and storytelling with them, and I can't get enough of watching that character. But like also just the way it flies, like those flying scenes were incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of just like a transportation scene, but
nice.
But yeah, I want to be friends with Toothless. What about you, Dick?
I'm sure I've done this before. Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois.
Yeah.
Dean DeBlois. DeBlois.
Yeah.
We watched but he didn't say his name in the documentary.
No, he didn't.
So we're not sure. It was great.
Yeah.
And like knowing that they like came in and made their changes, like Lilo and Stitch is surprisingly like one of my favorite Disney movies. Like I didn't realize it until we watched it again. And then, if you made me make a list, Lilo and Stitch would be like top 10 easily. And How to Train Your Dragon, like after like this movie ended, and I was like, I might have a favorite movie. This might be one of my favorite movies. I can't think of a DreamWorks that I like better than this.
Prince of Egypt? No, and that's okay.
I like Prince of Egypt a lot.
Listing the other good DreamWorks movie.
But that's what I'm saying. Like Spirit was good.
Spirit was good. Yeah, Spirit was fine.
Prince of Egypt, it's a great movie, but like we finished this and I was ready to watch How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Yeah.
Like I was like, cool, can we do the sequel for the next episode? Otherwise I just have to watch it. on my own. Spoiler alert, I have to watch it on my own. We're not doing it for the next episode.
Well, not the immediate next episode,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that's what I mean by next episode.
cool.
It's usually what people mean when they say next.
I'm not good at listening right now.
Thank you, next. That was a reference to a commercial for Full Stack Academy.
Hey,
This might be based on a song. I don't know.
Ariana Grande, right?
She seems small
Thank
to
you,
me.
next. That's why it's funny.
Thank you. Next. So what's our next segment?
Our thank you next segment is
my
called
God.
Crossover.
We
where
promise we
take
won't say thank you next anymore.
an element of each film, cross it over, make something new.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
No, I'll go first. I feel like I've been pushing you to think a lot in a row. I want to take. I wish there was more out there on the making of Spirit because I want to
we
know
looked
more
and
about their
we couldn't
process.
find anything.
No. Yeah, I want to know more about like the research. I guess I want. I guess I want the. This is broader strokes. I want the ending of Spirit for How to Train Your Dragon. Like, I want these dragons to be a little bit more autonomous by movie's end. Like, a friendly neighboring community as opposed to just the pets of these communities.
And then you would give the ending of How to Train Your Dragon to Spirit?
Yes. Little Creek would lose a limb and then would ride. No. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be an even trade.
An interesting crossover.
No, well, because it's, as you were saying, it's not something I would have thought about unless
Right.
we watched these movies back
Right.
to back, which we did. That, like, this idea of, like, saddling a wild creature for gain is, or for any reason, is, like, a little bit, I don't know, uncomfortable. Especially when you're giving them such colorful characteristics and such independence and such
Sentience.
Yeah, such sentience. And like I said, it's not that they had evil riders before and now they have good riders. They had no riders. They were free to a certain extent without this volcano boss. But I just wish it could be like, oh, the dragons are back. Hi, dragons. Then like everyone has a festival together. I don't know. And then they fly away and then come and go as they please.
Let me ask you this. Chris Sanders directed and did the screenplay for The Croods. Do we have to watch The Croods?
I mean, maybe.
It just looks, it looks terrible, right?
It does look terrible. I started watching it sometime for some reason and fell asleep in the first 10 minutes.
Maybe it's
So,
secretly great. Maybe
yeah.
we'll find out. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you going to cross over, Dick?
This is the easiest
Great.
question in the world. I switch Spirit and Toothless. I want Toothless in Spirit, and it's the exact same movie. But stars a dragon.
But with the dragon?
Among horses.
A dragon among horses?
I want, and maybe change the movie so that the dragon is the liberator of the horses. I want to watch that movie.
Yeah.
And similarly, I want the horse
Horse among dragons.
to fight a monster dragon. Maybe he could
Does
throw
the
a
horse
train
fly?
at him.
Can the horse fly?
Yeah, horses can fly.
Okay.
Kate.
Okay.
Don't you know anything? Yep.
Well,
The end.
now I'm just thinking about baby Pegasus.
Yeah, you are. You're always thinking about baby Pegasus. All right. So I think it's now time for the final
Cut.
cut. I did it wrong. Anyway, the final cut. Kate, we're going to start with Spirit.
All right.
Do you re-release this movie as is? Do you do like a special edition and fix some things up or turn it into a ride or a menu or something? Or do you throw it in the vault, never to be seen again?
Pass? Like, I wouldn't change anything, but
You wouldn't change anything?
I don't know. I think re-release seems silly.
You wouldn't change anything about Spirit?
Dick, it's one of those movies I don't care enough about to change.
Okay.
No, because I wasn't really bothered by like the anthropomorphic traits of the horses. Maybe I'd make them fall a little less comically. Yeah, or I don't know. I can't really undo the mixed metaphorsing. I don't know. I just kind of leave this. I leave it. I let it run free in the wilderness with all its other.
Oh, you learned the lesson of the movie.
Kind of like B- movie friends.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. That's not an answer.
No, that's fair. That's a re-release. Good job.
I guess it's it's just a release.
That's some of our highest praise. Good job. Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I get rid of Matt Damon.
Okay.
I get rid of Bryan Adams.
Yeah.
I put in the music that was originally planned to be in it, which was Garth Brooks.
That's right.
Which makes way more sense for a movie that sounds like cowboys.
What was the reason? Was it just like contract didn't
they wanted a
work
Canadian.
out? They wanted a
I don't know. No, I don't know.
That's true.
Originally, it was supposed to be Garth Brooks doing the music, which would have been so. Like, I don't really care about Garth Brooks or country music.
Yeah,
but that would have been so much better.
But was this timing wise? Would they have gotten Garth Brooks or Chris Gaines?
This is post Rope in the Wind, but pre Chris Gaines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's prime Garth Brooks.
All right.
Yeah. And I might take out, like, I'd put in the Garth Brooks, but Garth Brooks would do like 3 songs.
Yeah.
And Garth Brooks would only be allowed to sing while there were humans on the screen. And the horse scenes would just remain instrumental.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, because Hans Zimmer, his score for this movie, knocked it out of the park.
It's excellent.
It's sometimes very weird because it sounds like Epcot entrance music because he uses like
some
weird
synth
and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's always interesting to listen to.
The motifs are great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like any Hans Zimmer score, but because I had never seen this movie, I'm like, do I know this from somewhere?
They're not like heavy motifs. They're light motifs. And they're great. Yes.
No, but they're the kind of themes that you're like, you instantly recognize them, even though you've never heard them before.
Yeah.
He's magic.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon.
Do we re-release special edition or
chuck it in the vault?
Chuck it in the vault.
With zippity doo dah.
No, I think I re-release this. Perfect World. I might make the characters a little bit more gut punchy. I didn't necessarily get that out of the relationships. I liked the relationships a lot.
Yeah.
I like the dad.
Yeah.
Stoic, is that his name?
Yeah.
I
they're all named after attributes that invoke like fear or disgust or anger.
And so Hiccup.
So Stoic, Hiccup. There's like puke and bile or stuff like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought there was probably a little bit more to be mined there. And I don't necessarily think it's more screen time. I did appreciate what they did, and I did appreciate the unconventional ways that they approached the relationship, that it wasn't... I didn't know what was coming out of each character's mouth before it came. In some parental relationships, it's like, you never listen to me. Well, that's because you don't listen to me. Like,
No.
Sometimes it's phrased in a way where it's like, okay, I've seen this story before. I didn't feel that about this relationship, but I could have used some more of it.
Yeah.
But it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really effective. It looks cool. It feels good. I like it. Re-release.
Yeah. The only change I would make to this movie is to put it in an arena with puppets and animatronics. So re-release the movie and re-release that show.
Yes. Okay. There we go.
Like,
instead of re-releasing Spirit, I'd like to use my re-release on that movie on the arena stage show.
Also, I like the way the characters are named. I think it is a clever thing. But Gobber, Fish Legs, Tough Nut, Rough Nut, Spittle Snout, Snout Lout. Those are character names. Now say
Are
them,
those his friends?
Now say them back as if you remember them.
Tough Nut, Rough Nut.
Yeah.
They're twins.
There we go.
That's it.
They
like
go
there's a
right out of my head. I don't
there's a
remember
girl
any of
in
the
this
names.
movie. There's like
Yeah.
a love interest that
Yeah.
we haven't mentioned this entire podcast.
No, she's
because
not that
that's
important.
how little she
Yeah.
she
She's like a love
blipped on the
interest
radar.
/ competition.
Yeah.
I liked her,
Yeah.
but she wasn't really that important.
That's all.
She's
Yeah.
kind of important for being the first person to discover that he was How to Train a Dragon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
No.
That's all.
Cool. Well, that's these movies.
We have tamed them
Yes.
with our conversation.
That's
They have chosen us
that's right.
to discuss them over a podcast,
Yup.
and we have succeeded.
We killed it.
And now we will release these films back into the wild for...
Cool. So, if you would like to recommend a film to us, of course, please reach out. We do have a recommendation coming up next as well.
We have several recommendations kind of in the works over the next several months.
Yeah, we have movies we want to do too.
Yeah.
So we've got another recommendation coming up. Then we've got like a couple of ours, and we'll keep mixing it up. And Kate, do you want to give a hint as to what that pairing is going to be?
Yes, I do.
Do you want me to give a hint?
No,
Okay.
R.I.P. Toys R Us.
R.I.P. Toys R Us. That's good. Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah. So thank you again to Hannah for recommending these two movies together. This was super fun
Yeah.
to watch them, to discuss them with
movies that we'd never
the
thought about.
similarity.
Like we'd never really thought about Spirit, and like we
Just
had
the
no
goofy
idea
title?
how to pair these. So we
Yeah.
really appreciate that.
Yeah. So if you have a pairing, if you
Yeah.
have a single film you'd like us to take a look
if you're
at.
just like, look, I love this movie, pair it with something. Here's some ideas. Figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
We're happy to do that too.
or if you have a great new title for either one of these films, hit us up on Twitter,
Cellmates Podcast.
Facebook,
Cellmates Podcast.
email,
Cellmates Podcast at gmail.com.
and look at our website
Cellmatespodcast.com.
where you can connect to all of those mediums as well.
And we have
some news.
We have something coming up that we're a little excited about.
Yeah.
A little anxious about, but we think it's going to be a lot of fun. You may have noticed our episodes normally have like a season number and an episode number, and we haven't really released any like bonus special edition episodes. So to make up for that,
How about 30?
how about 30?
So on last episode, we mentioned that like several of our friends, just in real life, not
Yeah.
even in relation to this podcast, sent us the same link to this contest that Disney Plus is running. Where like, if you've got a lot of social media followers, we want you to win this contest and watch 30 Disney Plus titles in 30 days and review or whatever. We're not going to put in the work to enter the contest.
No,
but
especially
we will,
not for them.
But we will have Disney Plus the day it comes out.
Yes, we will.
So we are without $1,000.
We're going to watch 30 different things on Disney Plus and do mini episodes about each one.
Yeah.
The intention is for this to be stuff that we maybe haven't seen or haven't heard of, and we're just going to do like a tour of Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It won't necessarily be a pairing. It won't necessarily be animated. I'm happy to watch A Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Yeah, it won't necessarily be musical or good, but it,
It
will be Disney. We don't know how this is going to go, so
No.
join us.
Yeah, we're excited to go on this adventure with you.
And maybe we'll retroactively get paid the $1,000.
Yeah.
Who knows? It's worth a shot.
If you'd like to give us $1,000,
Yeah.
cellmatespodcast@gmail.com. Cool. So for Cellmates Podcast, I've been Dick Ward.
I've been Kate Phillips.
This has been a lot of fun. Thank you to everyone who listens. Please rate and review us. Tell us about us to all your friends, family, loved ones, your boss, your people you work with, your parole officer, whoever you got in
And
your
now,
life.
may you run and fly free. Goodbye.
Bye.
Which movie would you like to summarize?
Ooh, I would like to summarize How to Train Your Dragons, if you don't mind. Do you want me to do Spirit? I can do Spirit.
No, I feel like I can do Spirit in about 12 seconds. I don't know.